Continuing our celebration, commemoration and looking back 140 years of the Suffolk Chamber of Commerce, let's talk to the man in charge right now, Dr Peter Funnell, current chair of Suffolk Chamber. Since how long have you been chair?
Well, I was the president of the Suffolk Chamber in the early 10s, 2011 to 14, I think it was. And now I'm currently the chair of Suffolk Chamber in Central Suffolk. That's the area that's coterminous with Baber and Mid Suffolk District Councils.
Yeah, because people don't realise there's lots of different parts of the Chamber and it all comes together. It's one massive big cooperation, isn't it?
It is. Obviously, the nature and work of the Chamber of Commerce, Suffolk Chamber of Commerce, has changed over the last 140 years. But essentially, it is a collaboration of different agencies, a membership organisations, which draws members from the public, the private and the third sectors of the economy. And it's also critically, I guess, a networking organisation that brings people together to share ideas and to develop collaborative projects.
And you're going to be very modest when I say this, but this is your baby, C140, Chamber 140. It is your baby, this project, isn't it?
Well, yes. Well, I guess the origins of this go back to that period when I was president of the Chamber, when we celebrated the 130th anniversary. And I think we, myself and many others, felt we'd missed an opportunity to do more at that time. And as we approached the 140th anniversary, it seemed appropriate and sensible to do something. Now, that something had to be something more than simply a celebration. It had to be inquisitive. It had to explore through genuine research effort the contribution that the Chamber had made over that 140 years, how that had changed, and whether or not there were lessons and themes and issues that we could take forward into the next 140 years.
And looking back over 140 years, lots of the issues then are the issues now, but the way of expressing it, the way we're celebrating or marketing these 140 years has really widened. I mean, multimedia is big time now.
Yes, it is. But you're right to say that many of the themes and challenges of the Suffolk economy and indeed Suffolk communities more generally are the same. I remember the first time we looked at the Chamber archive, the paper archive. The first recorded meeting of the then Ipswich Chamber of Commerce was in November 1884. And the two primary issues being considered were the costs of the newly constructed rail transport from Felixstowe to the rest of the UK, and concerns about postal services impacting on trade with what was then called the Empire. And many of your listeners, and certainly any chamber meeting that doesn't have concerns about things like the Ely-Hawley junction, the need for enhanced rail movements from Felixstowe, or doesn't consider concerns about mobile phone not spots or internet connectivity, the same sorts of issues. They will be very unusual and rare meetings. And I think that's reflective of the fact that many of the issues remain the same. The benefits associated with collaboration and network remain the same, but obviously the context changes dramatically. And over 140 years, clearly that context has involved world wars, two pandemics, the Spanish flu in 1918, 19, and more recently COVID, and many other economic woes, etc., which have changed the context of business and community action in Suffolk, but has not changed the fundamental purpose of a Chamber of Commerce and why it's more relevant in 2024 than it probably was in 1884.
From what I see, the big thing that's changed is the amount of influence that the Chamber has now over local business, almost over Parliament as well. It's a big voice.
It's a significant voice. I mean, but it doesn't sit alone. We've already touched on the fact that the county chamber has these sub-county structures, which we mirror the district councils, so we get much more granular voices, so we can address genuinely local issues that impact on the towns, villages of the county. And the Suffolk Chamber itself is a leading member of the British Chambers of Commerce, which is the 53, I think it is, independent chambers. They're all independent businesses, which form the British Chambers of Commerce, and therefore through that collective there is a significant voice both in UK, with UK government and Whitehall, but through the international arm of the BCC globally. And those links and those interactions are critically important, and it means that a small business in Suffolk can have access to a range of services and benefits and networks, which can range from the neighbouring village to another part of the world.
What I see has changed over the last 10 years since the last celebration has been the bigger importance, a huge importance now on diversity in the chamber, women, every sort of diversity, and that's one of your main aims, isn't it, to make it more diverse?
Yeah, we were looking for, as part of the Chamber 140, C140, we were looking for a particular range of themes, but a particular theme that would allow us to seek support from the National Heritage Lottery Fund. And we knew that we had a significant paper archive, which is held at the Hold. We knew through the work of a small group of volunteers, early days of the project, that had interesting stories and revealed a number of important issues and facts. And we wanted to bring that together into a proposal to the Heritage Fund. And the theme we chose was around diversity, and we considered diversity in three sort of discrete ways. One, through simple acknowledgement of the diverse nature of the Suffolk economy. It's through that diversity that Suffolk, as an economy, has been able to progress through some of the traumas of that last 140 years, not least economic downturns, etc., at various stages of the early 20th century. But it's also diversity in terms of the increasingly important role of women in the workforce and in the wider economy, and particularly in terms of business leadership. And there's been radical change in that over the last, say, 30 years or so. And we also wanted to explore the contribution to the economy of migrant populations. And those have been significant and varied and have existed, and there is evidence of contribution over the last 140 years. And whilst you were kind enough to say this was my project, well, I may well have come up with the initial idea, but the Chamber team have developed these ideas significantly. And in particular, they focus not only on the role of the Chamber in the economic successes of Suffolk, but the contribution of individual members, some of whom have been with the Chamber for a century or more. And it's through that sort of activity, and indeed through the research that's been undertaken, that we now understand those contributions better. And as a consequence, we can use the lessons learnt through that work in mapping future activity and future policy and practice.
Now, if I was belonging to the National Lottery Heritage Fund, I'd say yes. Of course, you deserve the funding. But it's not an easy thing to get, is it? It does take a lot of jumping through hoops and things. So congratulations on that. But it is a big task to get funding like that.
Yeah, and rightly so. The lottery players who essentially fund the lottery would reasonably expect that the projects selected for funding are of significance, and that they make a contribution to our understanding of heritage and its place in the modern world. So yes, it should be difficult. I don't see it as jumping hoops. I see it as really presenting an argument and a case, and I think we did that reasonably successfully. This project is only the second, as far as I'm aware, it's only the second chamber of commerce in the UK who have secured heritage funding for a project of this kind. And this particular project is significantly bigger and in many ways more significant than the first of those, which was a decade or two ago. So I think it's unusual in that sense. It's not unusual that chambers of commerce are interested in their past. What's been impressive here is the focus on our own archive, which I've mentioned is stored at the Hold, the Suffolk Record Office in Ipswich, and on engaging through interview and through other sort of case studies, people who have a contemporary memory of, if that's an expression, a memory of those times and can share those. And that's been important, particularly in terms of recent past and the things that will be important to researchers in the future. For example, the Chamber's response to COVID, which was significant and can be compared, for example, to the business response to the Spanish flu, where more people died than during COVID, which was really to almost ignore it. And that's fundamental change in the social practices, and in particular the role that Chambers of Commerce, or this Chamber of Commerce in Suffolk, has played and continues and will continue to play in the future.
Significant campaign, 140 years. It's coming towards an end, but that end never comes, does it? Because there'll be another 10 years, another 10 years. It's important that this tracking, this celebration, these memories, and looking back at history and looking forward, it's important that continues.
Absolutely, and indeed this interview will become part of that record. It's extremely important for us and indeed for many organisations out there to capture their stories and to make them available for research, so we better understand the past so that it can inform the future. As I've stressed, this is not simply a celebration, good though it is and impressive though it is for a membership organisation to be sustainable and growing after 140 years. That's good stuff. But I think it's not simply that. It's much more about ensuring that the past informs the future in ways that are meaningful. So one of the outcomes from the C140 work and other work within the Chamber is the development of the Suffolk Convention, which is an event that will be held, I think it's in the middle of October, which will explore some of the key priorities for Suffolk now, the Suffolk economy now and in the future. And much of that is informed by the very issues that we've been exploring through C140, infrastructure, skills, the role of different groups in the wider economy, the relationship between business growth and community good. Sometimes we get these rather crass distinctions between the economy and the social world. They're the same thing in many ways. The success of local business is the success of the wider community, and vice versa. So we're looking at those relationships, and I think that convention is one simple example of how the past can inform the future.
History in the making. Dr. Peter Funnell, thank you for your time today.